Hey pilots, welcome back to Motion RC. I'm your product specialist Wesley, and today we are checking out the Nexa Tri-Pacer and continuing our assembly of this aircraft. Today is one of the hardest parts of the assembly, but nothing you can't handle. We're going to be mounting the motor to the front of this aircraft, setting its spacing, and then installing the cowl on and the nose wheel. Like I said, this is more of an involved process on this one, but it's something that anybody can do, and it's a very rewarding process as you do it. So without further ado, let's get to it and get started. So your kit's going to come with this motor plate. As you can see, it has these lines on it, and there's also lines right here on the fuselage to tell you where to line it up with. What we need to do is hold that and look from the front. What I did is took my pencil and just went on ahead and extended these lines out just a little bit. And we're going to line all of our little lines up, and that should give us dead center. Now once we do that, we're going to take our pencil and we're going to mark our holes. Now, something to be careful about. There is a hole in the center of this. There is a hole here. They do not match. So when you go to put that on there, don't line that hole up. Remember, you have to line up the lines to the lines. That is a pre-described set angle of the thrust line of this aircraft. Also, if you don't line this up with those little lines, the motor is not going to pop out of the cowling like it should. So now that we have that, it's time to get our bolts installed in the fuselage. Let's go on and pop the canopy off of the aircraft and grab our bolts here. We're going to be using a 13/64 drill bit to make these 4 holes in the fuselage. Grab our trusty drill. And now that I've made those marks, it's as simple as drilling these out. Now that we have those drilled out, we need to check to see if it's still too tight or if these are going to fit. I have a feeling they're going to be just a hair too tight, and they are. So what I'm going to do is just go up to the next size drill bit. You could also take and just kind of waller this around in there, but I don't recommend that. If you have a set of drill bits, just go up another size and see if you can clean those holes out and make them fit just a little bit better. Still just a hair tight. Let's go up to the next size. I'm up to 5/64 now. If we can get that bolt true now. Perfect. 5/64 was the ticket on that one. Let's test fit our bolts now. All right, now that we have those on, we can put our motor mount on. Oop, motor mount holes are too small. So let's make those just a hair bit bigger. Make sure the little notch is to the top while you're test fitting. Okay, so it fits, good. Now we don't want to put it on just yet because first we need to put our nuts and washers on. So we're going to have a washer on each. And actually messed up. Before we do that, let's take them all out because we need to put a washer on the inside. So make sure you take and you put a washer first, then your bolt, then a washer, and then a nut. Let's get it close. Then we're going to take a drop of blue Loctite here. Make sure it's blue so you can get it off again one day if you need to. And we're going to put a little drop of Loctite on there. Grab us a wrench. Give that a quick tighten up. Remember, it's just balsa here, or it is the hardwood actually, but we still don't want to just over torque the heck out of this. That's what the Loctite's for, is to keep that from ever coming loose. All right, let's do the next one. And at this point, have Lori speed this up for you guys, but I'm going to continue to do all 4 of these. All right, now that we have all 4 of our bolts on, what we need to do is screw on 4 nuts. Now we're not going to Loctite them or anything right now because this is where our adjustment for the motor mount's going to be. So depending on what motor you're actually using will depend on where you set these. Then a washer all the way around. Now, for the moment being, we're going to just guess that that's where it's going to go. We will have to actually measure it here in a second. Let's go on and make sure everything still fits with the motor plate. And we'll go on, and it does, just like that. So now we know that our motor plate fits and goes in. Now, we may have to cut these off to make room, depending on the motor we're using. Now, speaking of motor that we're using, so the kit recommends you use the Admiral GP10, which is a great motor and will fly this aircraft fantastic, if you want to see what that looks like. There it is, the GP10. But what I'm going to do is go on and save this motor, and I'm going to put it on the next project that I'm putting together. And I happen to have saved from a prior project an old Flightline 3748 kV brushless motor. This is the same one that comes in like the Tiger Cat. I think it's in the Bearcat. Little 4S motor, works really good. And I think it's going to pull this little guy around really well. And I already have it and it's paid for. So, you know, same thing for you. If you have a aircraft ever that's crashed and you need somewhere to put that motor, start looking at some of these Nexa kits. You know, if you had a Flightline Tiger Cat, crashed it, and you saved the 2 motors, hey, that's 2 of these airplanes you could finish. Just use the ESC and the motors again. So something to think about, guys. I got the prop nut and that kind of stuff right here for us to use a little later. So what we need to figure out now is mounting our little motor to the plate. Pretty simple though. Let me pull the plate back off. It's rather tight. We don't want to take it on and off too many times, as they are known to start binding. What we need to do next is take our little motor plate, I'll move the instruction manual, and we're going to hold that so when you take a look at this, you've got the lines right here. What we need to do is mount that motor where all those lines line up on our holes. So all we need to do is hold it right there. Get everything lined up right in the middle. And let's make some marks. Right like that. Drill one right there. right there. Okay, now let's see, what do we have here? These are the mounts for the motor itself. Let's make sure they fit. These are the ones that came in the kit, which they do, perfect. All right, so we need to drill this out. Let's figure out what size we need. Looks like it's about 7/64. Looks like the guy for me. I can't recommend enough a good set of drill bits too. If you're going to be building wood aircraft, a good set of drill bits is a very crucial thing. Make sure you only use them to drill your airplanes with, because they'll dull out really quick on other stuff. So here we go. Make sure that guy's going to fit in there before we go any further. Need to drill it just a hair bit bigger. Remember, it's always easier to go up a size later than go down a size when you're drilling wood. So start with a little bit smaller than what you think you need and work your way up to the size you actually need. Can't put it back. Take me a razor knife and just kind of clean up my holes. I busted out a little bit on the backside. Now, it's time to mount the motor to the motor plate. Let's see, I'd like, if at all possible, to have my wires heading towards the downward area. Yep, somewhere like that. Oh, that's the top though. Help if I went down. All right. We're going to put a bolt in. Enough washers. 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now we're going to bolt this guy on. So washer on from the back side. Then a nut. I'm going to leave it loose on there until we get all 4 in. Now, if you don't have Loctite for some reason, you can always use CA when you come to this next part. I'm going to drop a little Loctite in each of these and then tighten them up. And if you have one of these little 4-way wrenches that come in a bunch of RC car kits, they fit these perfectly. Found this a while back and sure makes your life easier. Once again, just get them tight. Don't go too crazy because you don't want to split the wood out. Now, before we go any further, let's see if our cowling fits with our screws without cutting them off. And it does, so we can leave the screws full length. That's a good thing to know. Now, let's slide this guy in ever so slightly. And the trick here is now to fit the cowling. Now you can measure it all out if you want, but what I do is just kind of leave it loose like that. Now I can grab it and set that right where I want it. If the cowling's on, I've got my little plate sticking out right here where the prop is going to go. I just want to make sure that's far enough out to clear, and it is. So now what we need to do is get some measurements, because we want to set our plate distance right where it's at if we can. So, inch. And this is going to be different depending on whatever motor you're using. So remember, this is going to be a little bit different for me than it is for you. Now, there is right and down built into the firewall. So as long as you make it the same distance from the firewall to the plate all the way around, you'll have the correct geometry. So what I'm going to do is just make me a little mark on my ruler. I can always take it off later. But now I know I'm setting it to that everywhere around. Now we can check with our cowling to make sure that that still pokes right out the front. You take these motor wires, bend them up here out of the way because I keep hitting them. So it's just a hair off, so I'm going to manually move it just over a little bit more right thrust. It's not going to hurt anything. It wasn't in the center though, you can see it right now. So I'm going to get that in the center of the cowling. I'm going to make sure I have down and right in the motor, which I do. Take a look at how far off it is. That's really far off. I don't like that. Really needs to go there. That's it. There she be. Perfect. So I only moved it out just a hair because the motor was setting just off to the side here, so I just moved it just a hair more to the right. A little more right thrust isn't going to hurt anything. We don't want to make it left or up. That would be bad. Anyway, there's that. So now we can put our washers on, all 4 of them. And then we're going to put our bolts on and tighten all this rig up. Watch your motor wires, that you don't pinch them, no matter what motor you're using when you're putting these washers and nuts on. Get them all started, then we'll Loctite them, tighten everything down. Oh, you know what? And we're gonna have to do it on the back side too. So what I'm gonna do is one at a time. Back here on these bolts behind, I'm just gonna take and loosen them off. I know I'm going right back to where I was. Give them a drop of Loctite. Loctite's pretty crucial on this so you don't have them back off in flight. Just get them up to where they touch. Once again, if you don't have access to Loctite, a little bit of thin CA dripped on them. You can usually break it free, but it'll just kind of act as Loctite also. Now I'm just going to put a drop of Loctite on each of these bolts so that when I run the nut down, it's already got it covered and in the right place. Wow, that was way too much. A little drop of the stuff works, but it's so hard to get out just a drop. Then we can take our wrench and just tighten them up until they feel good and tight. Like I said, don't go too crazy. You don't want to split the wood trying to do this. Just get them nice and tight. And that should get our motor mounted. Strong as could be, just like we want it. Now, just for the last little check, we can just slip the cowling back over, make sure everything looks good, and we're happy with it before we move on to the next step. And it does. And remember, the cowling can shift a little bit, so get it, as close as you can without having to shift around the cowling too much. But you can move the cowling left, right, up, and down when you go to screw it on here in a minute. So, but yes, there it is. As you can see, right from the front, right in the middle where we want it. And we have that spacing, which if I grab the prop, we can check that real quick. I can see it by eye just because I've done this so much. But just for giggles. There's that. We've got plenty of clearance. There's the nut. But just for the meantime, all we're trying to do is make sure that we have good clearance. which we do. So we're going to go on and remove that prop and move on to the next step. We'll come back to putting this on a little bit later. For now, we want to leave that off. What we can do is go on and throw this and this on here so we don't lose it. So the next thing we need to do is put our ESC in the aircraft somehow. Now once again, going with the same principles as before, I have broken airplanes. I need somewhere to use all these electronics. So I have a 60 amp ESC out of a jet. It's got 9 miles long, too long of a cord, but it's gonna work just fine for our purposes. So what we need to do first is sneak our ESC battery connection up into the fuselage. Then we're going to take our ESC control wire up in there. And then we're going to figure out how we want to mount it. I'm probably going to put it right there. And we'll plug this guy in like this. Now if it runs the wrong direction, we know we have to take it apart and fix that in a little while. But for now, we can take this guy and mount him right here. So I'm going to grab some zip ties and we're going to mount him up there. Here we go. I like to put it here in the cowling somewhere so it's getting lots of cooling. There you go. That guy's nice and mounted securely now. Snip off these little guys. Nice and secure where it is. And it's going to be getting a ton of cooling up here in the nose with this current setup. All right, so now we can put all that stuff in the fuselage. I would say our next step is probably putting our nose gear on. We're going to have the nose mech in order to put the cowling on. And then the cowling is going to need to have a cutout for the actual wheel itself. But for right now, I'm going to stop for a second, take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and get kicking on the nose wheel. All right, pilots, the next step in the process of putting this aircraft together is going to be getting our nose wheel assembly installed onto the aircraft. Now, the only thing I've done so far is I took my little push rod, you can see it right here, and I pushed it up into the airplane. What I'm trying to do right now is get it up inside the aircraft. As you can see, I bent it up and into here. Now, it's still way too long, so I'm going to cut it off about here, push the rest of that in there, and then we're going to figure out where we want it, and I'm going to actually put a bend in it right here to help this go around that and not be in a bind. We need that to be loose flowing in there. So here we go. Let's see what we can do. Oh, and I also should mention real quick, I took my Dremel tool, and there were 2 holes right here, and I just opened them up a little bit because when we put our motor mount in, there's these 2 bolts sitting right here in line with where the canopy actually closes. And in order for that to clear, I just took and enlarged those holes, like I said, just a little bit. And now the canopy goes on there. I'll show you a little bit once we kind of get through this part, but yeah. So let's cut that guy off and start to bend in the wire. There we go. So we have that. It is time to assemble our nose gear strut. All right, so now we're trying to assemble our nose gear strut. As you can see, I just slid it together real quick so you can see it. This little piece right here clips in here, and then the strut is going to slide up from the bottom and into it. Now, what we need to do is take this little guy right here and clip it on. Let's see, like so. Nice. All right, then we can set that off to the side. And then, manual's not showing to use washers, but I'm going to. They just simply thread in. The longer side of the mount goes to the bottom. Guess right the first time? Oh, I did. And now we tighten them up and go all the way around. Slide that guy in there. And that should make it where when we put this in from the bottom, all line up and go right in there, just like that. Now you can see that's the nose gear assembly. Now, we're going to leave our wire loose for now inside the aircraft until we have a chance here in a minute to get the cowling on. The first thing we wanted to do is get our nose wheel where it's all assembled and correct, which it is. Now we can pop this guy back out. We're going to leave all that setting in there, and we're going to get the cowling installed on the aircraft. Now, we need to get it on. Line it up. What I can do now is rearrange the cameras for just a second. Okay, so for this next step, we're going to be installing our cowling to the aircraft. Now, something I personally did a long time ago, I went out and I bought this little guy here. I went out and bought this little guy here off of Amazon. It's just a whole bunch of M2, M3 screws with a nice button head on them. And I like this for whenever I'm mounting cowlings or like windows to aircraft like this. Instead of gluing them on whenever anything says to glue something on, I always screw it on when it comes into wood airplanes. And so the kit has some screws in it, but I just use these on everything now since I bought these, and works really well. So highly recommend it if you're going to be doing a lot of wood aircrafts. Picking up one of these little things. So let's find a screw that looks, or a bit that looks just about right. And let's pilot drill us some holes. And here's the trick. You have play in the cowling right now. You can move it around and get it just where you want it, where that motor mount comes out right perfect in the middle. This is your chance to do it. So now that we know we got it right where we want it, pick a spot. I'm going to put a screw. Give it a little pilot drill. And we don't need one that long. Grab us a screwdriver. I'll try and show the other side a little better. All right, so we're going to put that screw in where we just drilled the hole. Hopefully I didn't drill it too big. And I'm going to go up to an M3. I feel like I drilled that one just a hair bit too big. That's okay though, because we've got our M3s. Just like that. And I like to put 2 on each side. That seems to hold it pretty good. Now that we flipped it over to the other side, let's get 2 more screws in. Check our motor is still right in the center, and it is. Let's see, where did I put it? I put it right in line with the white stripe on that side, the second white stripe. Try and make them look the same. All right, now that gets our motor mounted. Let me show you this next part. So what we need to do now is look down through here. We're gonna make a mark inside of there where the wheel needs to come out. Now I know this is really hard to see right now. Okay, now you can see it. That little mechanism right there, that's where our landing gear needs to come through. Now I'm gonna drill a hole and we're gonna make it a little bigger than what we need. But we need to make a spot for that strut to come up from the bottom and into that. So let's make us a mark. Now that we have our mark inside of the cowling, we can pop the cowling back off, drill that hole for the strut to go through. So let's take the cowling back off. The other thing we can do is while we have the cowling off, let's drop a little thin CA inside of all of our screw holes. That will help reinforce that wood right there. And I'll show you here in just a second. So let's take our screws and put them away so we don't end up grabbing the wrong ones back out from what we just put in. All right, pop the cowling off. So now that we have the cowling off, we're going to clean our little holes here, and we need to take and drip just a little drop of thin CA in each of those holes, and this will reinforce the holes going forward. Just a little drop, doesn't take much. Ooh, that was a lot. More than I wanted. Ugh. Good news is they're going to be behind that cowling. There we go. We can do the same thing on the other side. Like I said, this will just strengthen those holes up. Hopefully keep the wood from stripping out over time. That's all we're trying to do. All right. Now, let's set the fuselage aside while we drill out our holes on the cowling. I'm going to take a poker. I know whereabouts I want my hole now because I marked it when we had the cowling on there, as you can see. So I'm going to take this and just kind of jab it through. It's an awl. It's just a really sharp, pointy thing. I'm going to grab that, pick out right where I want my hole. I'm just going to ever so slightly push that through, and I can see it now from this side. I don't push it too hard, just enough to make it where there's ever so slightly a little dent now where I know where to drill. Now I'm going to start with a small pilot hole, and then we're going to work our way up to a bigger one so we don't break the fiberglass. We try not to break the fiberglass, I should say. And we're going to work our way up to the biggest one because I want a pretty good size hole here. So now we're going to go up to like halfway. We're going to drill another one. Once again, I'm just working my way up right now because I don't want to break the fiberglass as we do this. Now, of course, you can cut the whole bottom of this thing out if you really wanted to, but I'm trying to keep it clean. Clean as possible, at least. Now, I think I'm going to go on. Let's check. I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that I missed, but we'll find out. Let's put the cowling back on. All right, now we can look and see if we missed or not. Oh, we are real close. I need to drill it out just a little bit. Not sure if you guys can see it or not, but there's that hole we were talking about that we're trying to put that gear in. Just a hair off, I was pretty close. What we'll take now is just a little Dremel and clean out the hole. There we go. Now we can slide this little guy in here and check it, but it should go right on down, and it does. And then you just take your nut driver after all of that, coming from the front, and tighten it up, just like that. And that's how that nose gear is attached. Pretty simple, you know, just had to think about it for a minute how we wanted to do that. But that also keeps our bottom super clean now, where we just have that one little thing popping out. Whereas, once again, you could take and cut this whole section out and be able to slip the cowling on and off. But if you do it this way, now you've got that nice clean look right there instead of a big gaping hole. So, now that we have that, we need to just put our little wheel together up here on top. Now, if you want to upgrade it this time, this is your time to put on a Dubro low bounce if you wanted one. And there we go. That gets our front wheel on, just like that. All right, now that we have the front wheel done, we need to get our back wheels put on. So for the back wheels, we're gonna be using the two little silver things for the back wheels. As you can see, they go right meow and right meow. What we need to do is cut these out. Now, we don't want to cut them out too close because then it won't tuck it in there. We want that plastic to tuck. Now, anytime you are cutting monocoat, go on and get a fresh hobby blade. That'll ensure you get a nice clean cut as you do it. So we're going to leave a little bit of excess so it'll fold around. I'm going to cut this out. Now I can grab one of our landing gears and it fits right in there. And let's make sure it stuffs that all around in there, and it does. So we're going to be using these little silver guys, the 4 by 20 millimeter long screws to put this in. We're going to get that all lined up. All right, so for this part, what we need to do is drill out the little holes on our fairings. Well, all we had to do was these came as a big sheet. I took my razor knife and just ran them around the outside and got these cut out of that sheet. We've got all of them here now, and they have a pre-marked little dimple where they're supposed to be drilled out. We're gonna be putting, now I'm gonna change a little bit in the kit. I took these little guys out of the bag that the nitro motor mount came out of. There are other screws for this, but I like these button-headed ones, and they're not going to get used anyway, so I'm going to use them here. They're the same size. They're 3mm, but they're a little bit longer, but that's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. So for now, we just need to get a hole that they can pass through. All right, now that we have that, we can take the actual gear strut, and we need to hold that over it. Now I'm going to hold that guy right there, where he's going to be right in the middle. I'm going to take me a marker. Give it a mark and a mark. Now, I know this could fit just a little bit better if we took and we trimmed the metal or the plastic between here and here and here and here. That fits that pretty good now. So now what we're going to do is take and drill a hole in both of our aluminum struts. All right, now hold that little guy up there. Nice. This wants you to put this on both sides. I may opt not to do that. Looks pretty good just with the one. You know, you'd have the cover on the inside also, which I guess we can do. I just don't know if it's going to flap around or not. There we go. When you get done, that's what it should look like. All right, so I'm going to continue on and put the other side together. No reason to show you that twice, but that is that. What I may actually do, just to clean up the gap, you know, right here at the back, is take a little bit of white electrical tape, funny enough, and just wrap it around that, just to seal that gap off, make it a little cleaner looking. All right, our final step is to get the wheel pants and the wheels installed to get our landing gear complete. The wheel pants themselves come with a pre-marked hole on each side where we need to drill it. I'm gonna just take a drill bit now and drill both sides out. Then I'll take a razor knife. On the inside, you can see it left a little burr. We're going to take that and clean it off. Now, let's see. Now, what you'll notice is the wheel is just a hair too big for the opening that's there. I'm going to take a Dremel tool now and open that up just a hair bit. All right, now we can put our wheel in and make sure it's going to clear, and it does. So we take our bolt, push that through. Now we're going to grab a nut. if you have, where'd I have them? Where'd I put them? I've had 3 sets out now. Ah, here they are. If you have a set of forceps, you can grab the nut, lock your forceps down, hold the nut in there where it needs to go, line everything up, hold your tongue just right, and get it started. Aha, just like that. Now we can go on and just take our screw and run it all the way down to where it's touching the plastic. Oops. Carefully. We don't want to put any pressure on it, because that's what's going to let our wheel spin on the axle. Then we can just simply move the axle up here. Oops, I forgot. I had to drill the hole out. Hole's a little tight. So drill it out just a hair. Then we can take that, put it on. Washer from the other side. And then our final nut. Now, we can take our screwdriver, hold on this side, and grab our wrench. I'm using a 7mm, and tighten it up. Give her a spin. That ain't going nowhere. Give it just a little hair more tightness. And there it is. Well, all right, pilots, that completes today's episode of the assembly of our little Tri-Pacer here. The airplane's going together really nicely. You can see we now have our cowling installed, motor mounted. Our wheels are all on the aircraft. It's getting really close. Next step's gonna be getting the wings on. Then we're gonna start installing our electronics. So really going well. I hope you've decided to check one of these airplanes out. They're pretty inexpensive and you get a beautiful kit with all the hardware you need right out of the box. You just need to add your favorite electronics to the aircraft. Well, as always, guys, whether it's land, sea, or air, Motion RC has everything you want. Can't wait to see you in the next episode, guys.